Alrighty, well, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you're probably on our YouTube channel, and I'm really excited to bring a new edition of one of our webinar series. And today we have a really interesting topic, and I'm really looking forward to diving into with our guest who comes highly recommended. And today we're talking about a book. Actually, it's called The Impact Makers: Voices of Leadership. Before we get into it, I just wanted to give a little bit of an overview of eBridge Marketing Solutions. My name is Devin Rose. I'm the VP of Operations for eBridge. We're a boutique agency for MSPs, vendors, and IT service firms, and we're located in Vancouver, Canada, not too far from my guest today. We've been in the business since 2001, so we're pretty experienced in this industry and offer a full range of services. If you're interested, there's our website there. It's ebridgemarketingsolutions.com. And my guest today is Dan Albaum, and he's the host of Market Impact Now and author of The Impact Makers: Voices of Leadership. Dan, do you maybe want to take an opportunity just to talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Devin, first of all, it's a real privilege to be here today to share more about insights from the book and a little bit of my background. I'm a marketing professional for more than 3 decades, have built and led marketing teams in a variety of industries with really a technology bent, worked with some global leading companies in the tech space, worked as a global marketing leader in the fitness space, and then have done ongoing marketing consulting through our Market Impact Consultancy, and then the Market Impact Insights podcast, which we launched a couple of years ago, which really provided a lot of inspiration for the insights and the wisdom from global leaders in the book. So really looking forward to sharing with you some of that key learning today.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. I'm sure that was helpful for some of our listeners, and I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about the book as we get into the presentation today.
Absolutely.
So we have a series of questions to go through, which relate to the topic of leadership, and especially as it pertains to IT services. But the first one is, what was your inspiration for writing The Impact Makers?
You know, Devin, it really goes back to even my childhood and growing up, and I have to give credit to my parents who really instilled in me at an early age, and I've kept this as a priority throughout my life, which is putting others first, thinking about the needs of others, which really provided a foundation for this whole philosophy of servant leadership. And as I moved into my professional career coming out of college, and being someone new to the marketing craft and experiencing different styles of leadership and actually being exposed to some of the more traditional models that were more hierarchical, command control oriented, it really allowed me to start developing a sense of what was important for me, what kind of imprint did I want to make, what approach did I want to take to really pay it forward, so to speak. And then with the benefit of growing that professional career, the benefit of experience, and then also the podcast, which now we're at more than 100 episodes, and really hearing from C-suite leaders to entrepreneurs, functional experts, and the common thread when think about results and sustained performance is that a servant leader mindset where you put your team first and empowerment of team first before self really leads to better results. And so that really motivated me. How could I further share? What's a platform to further share this wisdom? And it was time to write the book.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that. And, I'm thinking maybe some of our listeners might not be familiar with the term servant leadership. Do you mind elaborating about what that means to you?
Sure. Well, in a formal sense, this concept has really been documented for about 50 years. But in its essence, servant leadership is really about prioritizing the growth and the wellness of people and their communities. And as a leader, what this really means, Devin, is that we're flipping the script, as I mentioned before, on the traditional thinking about what does it mean to be a leader versus a manager in an org chart. It's not about holding on to power. It's really about letting go of that traditional power mindset and putting that empowerment in the hands of the people that you are leading, that you're responsible for in the organization. It's about giving them the resources they need. It's about removing the barriers for their success And what's amazing, and there's been studies on this that have shown the benefits of this non-traditional, in terms of those older traditional hierarchical models, the business performance improves, and the motivation and the loyalty and the satisfaction and the energy level of the employees goes up when you're able to really apply this servant leader mindset.
Thanks for that. It's a good explanation there. I certainly think that from an employee's perspective too, it's certainly the type of boss that you want to be working with, someone who supports you in those ways. So that's a good explanation there. And so to you, what are the most important facets of leadership? And I believe you might have had, was it 6 that you mentioned that you focus on in the book?
That's right, Devin. So, in the book, really break it down into 6 key dimensions around exceptional leadership. And the first is cultivating a culture of innovation. That is the idea that there is this ongoing thinking outside the box, a comfort level and a courage to really go beyond just a rinse and repeat of the way that things have been done inside of an organization, to really think more broadly, to think more innovatively. And so that's the first dimension that we talk about. The second is really the importance of developing authentic, trusted, healthy relationships. And Devin, when you think about relationships, it's like this ever expanding universe. It starts at a very personal one-to-one level, and certainly inside of any organization, we're developing those personal one-to-one relationships. But then think about that from team to team inside of an organization. So now we're moving to really community or teams of people, and how they form that authentic, trusted, healthy relationship with other teams. And then at an organizational level, now we're getting into more of the ecosystem aspect of the universe, where it's organization to organization, and how to forge those strategic partnerships built on authenticity and trust. And then an even broader one, and this actually came up in a recent podcast of mine, where we can take that to where we think about nations of the world, and how that authenticity and trust and health in the relationship of nation to nation. So the relationships, very, very critical. The third dimension is really around the value and the impact of having diversity represented in terms of membership of your team, and that can take many forms, in terms of socio-demographic diversity, in terms of work experience, life experience, perspectives, and the value of having diverse points of view, the diverse perspectives inside of your team, and encouraging that as a leader. The next dimension is how we can continuously improve the quality of our decisions by leveraging data. So we all have access, and today there's probably never been a time in the world where there's been more available information and data. The key is how to productively focus on what's most important and have the interpretive skills to leverage that data for improved decision making. The fifth dimension is how you model the right behaviors in terms of exceptional leadership. That means everything from being available, being highly engaged with your team members, providing the right kind of mentoring, and really setting the example in a positive way, in a constructive way, for your teams to really grow and develop and perform better. And then the last one, Devin, is really more around a mindset, and it's a mindset of optimism. So how do we view the future? How do we bring a sense of confidence and positivity into everything we do when we wake up every day, bringing that sense of optimism in, and it's amazing what that can lead to in terms of end results. So those are the various different dimensions of exceptional leadership that we cover in the Impact Makers.
Very cool. I like that model. And I'm just thinking, because a lot of our listeners will be IT service providers, are there maybe 1 or 2 that stick out to you that would be, particularly important for leaders of IT service companies? And I'll offer my conjecture, but when we're talking about innovating, that seems like one that might be quite important, obviously, in the tech space. But there's also like the relationship building too, and I think of from a marketing perspective, a lot of IT service providers, they get most of their leads are from relationship building and from word of mouth and referrals. But I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? Or is there one or two that stick out to you for IT service providers in particular?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly the relationship, Devin, you hit on it. I mean, that would be absolutely critical, either from in terms of a focus on client relationships and what do you bring, and doing a really kind of thoughtful assessment in terms of what is the incremental value that we're actually bringing, and then how do we articulate that into an ongoing, long-running relationship. So we think long term, we're playing the long game, not the short game. It's not transactional. And more in today's world, with there's been such highly level of disruption, right? From pandemic to just economic uncertainty, it has borne out that when companies are seeking to partner with others, especially around technology solutions that are so rapidly developing and changing, they're really ideally looking for something that's longer term, that's sustainable, not just kind of a hit and run and highly transactional. So I think bringing that more strategic sense in from the relationship building. And then the other thing that I would say is that in the market today, where we have seen so much migration and movement from talented, skilled employees, employee retention, and we know that people become a powerful differentiator when we're talking about any kind of service business that's supporting those relationships. So I would say as leaders inside of an MSP or IT services company, make sure that you're doing everything possible to nurture, develop, to be available, and to engage through those exceptional leadership behaviors to ensure that you can retain those quality value add employees. Are going to be just a critical foundation for the success of your company moving forward.
Yeah, it's a problem I hear from a lot of MSPs is in terms of retaining employees, especially when they have, options where they could go work for a large company in an IT department or something like that. So, I think that's really good advice. Thanks for that. So we kind of touched on the servant leadership
Yep.
already, so we can skip over that one. But one thing that I kind of hear sometimes, and especially in maybe the sports world, quite often, is this concept of like people who are born with leadership skills. So I was curious, from your perspective, do you think that leaders can be taught, or is this something that is more inherent to your personality?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and and I bring into this just my own experience and kind of self-reflection in terms of my own journey. And I'll say this, Devin, is that while I totally recognize we are all unique and special human beings in our own way, and we bring certain innate skills to the table, I am absolutely convinced that more effective leadership skills and behaviors can be developed over time, can be learned over time. And I look at my own experience when I went into the marketing world, very young in my career. I didn't have all of the confidence. I was very much in that, think back to when we're a baby and we're learning, we're crawling first. We typically crawl first, and then we learn to kind of stabilize ourselves and get our balance. And then we start taking that first step and walking. We're not running, we're not sprinting, but over time, we get there, we develop, and each incremental step gives us more confidence. Each assignment, each new company that you're taking that challenge on, the more interactions you have, the more cross-functional interactions, and also I would just say the powership of great mentoring of people that are further along in their career than you, and being able to actually have an active mentoring relationship, which benefited me earlier in my career. How to go in to a meeting or to a presentation, how to effectively apply persuasion and influence in that. None of that was natural. All of that had to be learned, over time, and also by being a continuous learner. Being exposed to podcasts, books, which we all have available to us, the experiences and the perspectives of others, all of that can be modeled. All of that can be part of your ongoing development journey. So I definitely believe that we all have the ability to improve and to reach even greater levels of impact and performance.
That's an awesome answer. Thank you. And maybe I'm thinking some of our listeners might be people who have, maybe risen the ranks in the tech world and now maybe are looking to start their own IT service provider where these sorts of skills might become more important for their role. In which case, I would suggest doing what Dan suggested too, is check out his podcast, get his book, because you can learn these skills and you can work on them even if there weren't if you're not so accustomed to them.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Devin. You know, what's been the role of technology in terms of, and I mentioned access to a lot of data or information, but what it's brought is the convenience and the flexibility of how we can learn, how we can benefit from that. And we've all got a lot of responsibility. We've all got so much packed into a 24-hour day, less than that in terms of our waking hours. But today there's so many choices and so many platforms that you can access that. Go listen and grab, 15, 20-minute, maybe 30-minute podcast while you're on your commute or your drive, and you can do that at the time, that works for you and is convenient. Go and make a goal in terms of reading, 20 pages a day in terms of a business strategy or leadership a book like The Impact Makers that can give you some additional insight, maybe some additional inspiration. It doesn't all happen at once. It's really just more of that methodical, make the commitment, build in some part of as continuous learning and development into every one of your days, and you'll be amazed over time, just the cumulative effect of having built up that knowledge over time.
Very good. I couldn't agree more. So, one question that kind of applies to today's business environment, and obviously over the pandemic, we saw this increasing, is the role of remote work and more companies offering either primary remote work environments or maybe a hybrid work environment with people also in the office. So, I was curious, how do you think that has changed the role of business leadership when you are dealing with more employees that are working remotely?
Yeah, it's really interesting because, and actually spoke to a couple of leaders that are highlighted in the book that touch on just this changing world in terms of moving from everyone in office to more remote or virtual. And it really puts a greater, more than ever before, opportunity for leaders to be engaged and to think about how to engage with folks that are not going to just be there for the convenience of the walking around, right? We always talk about, management by walking around. That was kind of a concept, for decades, in terms of how do you maintain contact. Well, we don't have the ability to do that, but we do have tools that allow us to do virtual check-ins that don't have to be scheduled, that are more impromptu. It's so important people to feel, even in their remote work environment, that they are still connected to something bigger than themselves. How do we achieve that as a leader? We communicate, we reach out, we connect. And a lot of it, I would argue that it's even more powerful to have the unplanned and the impromptu check-in. And I'll do this with some of my team members, through using tools like Slack. Hey, how are you doing? How's your day going? Just wanted to check in. Really important for employees to know that their leadership is thinking about them, is caring about how they're doing, but most importantly, reinforces that there is always a two-way access, for engagement, for sounding board, for ideas. So it's the informal, casual check-in, and as a leader, if we're not building in some time to be able to reach out to your virtual employees to do that, then that's a missed opportunity. So we definitely want to do that. And I would also say that there are, it's even more important in team meetings to have a regular cadence to bring the entirety of your team together as a community. You can do that virtually. You can use Teams, you can use Zoom, do that virtually. And there are activities, icebreakers, team building activities, along with just engaging, allowing the team members to give updates. Make sure you're bringing the team in entirety together on a regular cadence that is a reinforcer that we're something greater than just ourselves reinforcement of what those team goals are, hopefully you had coming in to your business year, and be able to, again, keep people motivated, feel connected, and know that they have an outlet to be able to voice input, concerns, what have you. So really it comes down to communication and connection more than anything else, really important in a remote environment.
Yeah, I think of, there's the stereotypical meeting in an office where you're in front of a whiteboard and, you're doing kind of that sort of informal brainstorming. I think that is maybe easy to forget about more in a remote work environment. And so I like your advice of kind of coming together for a regular cadence. And even if there maybe isn't like a pressing purpose to the meeting, having that opportunity to brainstorm where we might have lost out on it otherwise in a remote work environment. I think that's good advice there.
And there's amazing capabilities in a lot of our collaborative platforms to be able to visually do team ideation, right? You've got the ability to do the brainstorming, use things like Miro boards. There's lots of range of different options to be able to actually create visual representations of the ideation, which makes that coming together even more powerful. So definitely beyond just the conversation, beyond the traditional note-taking, make sure to take advantage of some of these available collaborative platforms to really get your team amped up and feeling excited and engaged.
Totally agree. So you touched on this in terms of one of the 6 factors of leadership, but I was curious a little bit more about how can leaders use data to make better decisions. And I don't know if there's maybe a specific application for IT service providers that you could discuss as well.
Well, here's where I'm going to go with this one, Devin, and this is going to, bear with me because this is going to be a very personal story, but I think it's a great, powerful analogy around what is a approach that can allow us to be able to get better leverage out of the available data. And what I refer to this in the book is the power of small increment goals. So the idea is if we're setting quantitative goals and targets, and maybe we're relying and we're tracking and we're leveraging information to gauge our progress against that. It can be really overwhelming when you take a long-range goal. It might be big, hairy, audacious. The BHAG goals we've all encountered in our professional careers. And is it important to be aspirational? It's important to think long-term, set these big BHAG goals. Absolutely. But that can be really overwhelming, and it isn't always entirely clear to everyone in an organization, what is my particular role? How do I know that I'm even making a difference towards that? And so what I would argue for is to break that down, that long-term goal into smaller increments, small increment goals that allow more frequent assessment of progress, allow people to get their arms around maybe a smaller data set in order to, for that particular period of time, rather than be caught up in kind of the cumulative long-term big effect. And so the analogy that I'll use here is in my own personal fitness journey, I was challenged by a friend during the pandemic. I became aware of a crisis that we have, which is on average 22 suicides by veterans that are just dealing with depression, mentally well. It's a huge problem and a crisis. And so to honor that, he challenged me to join the 22 push-up challenge, which is 22 push-ups for 22 days, record that on video, raise funds for this really important cause. And I did that. But over the course of that, Devin, it really inspired me. What more could I do? How farther could I go in terms of setting a challenge for myself around this idea of push-ups? And so working with my personal trainer, Christina Teasley, Supreme Strength out of Salt Lake City, she developed this really ingenious training plan, ultimately leading to a gone in 60 seconds. That is a maximum push-up challenge. How many could I do in 60 seconds? We set that goal for about 9 months out from when we started the training for that. And the idea wasn't to say, Dan, how many push-ups in total are you going to do over those 9 months? And that's our goal, and we're going to measure against that. That's going to be a really big number, right? Because we're going to do this training on a regular basis. But instead, it's how much could we incrementally increase the training time on the push-ups each week? And so we set up Fridays. Push-up Friday started at 20 seconds in terms of that training and max out. And each Friday, we added 1 second, only 1 second, to each of those 3 training rounds during that training session. And so over the course of 40 weeks, we built from 20 seconds up to the 60 seconds. And at the end of that, not only was I really fit and I pumped out, raised funds for this really worthy cause, but when we looked back on it, how many push-ups did I do over that time? That was over 17,000 push-ups. Now, I will tell you that if she would have told me, Dan, we are starting our training now and we're going to do 17,000 push-ups, this is what this program is about, I would have headed for the hills. I would have been overwhelmed. But by taking this in very small increments in terms of the training time and focusing on those small increments and then just really celebrating each week that we were able to go 1 second farther. 1 second doesn't seem like a lot, but when you accumulate that over 40 weeks, it's quite a build. And so I would just take that philosophy into how we're setting up our business goals, or short-term to long-term business goals, and how you are measuring and motivating your team. It's okay to think in smaller increments because the cumulative effect of that approach over time is going to get you to where you want to go.
Well, that's awesome. That's a great story, and sounds like it was a great impetus for that journey too. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you.
So for IT service providers in particular, are there any unique challenges for which leaders should be aware that you think of, and maybe can it touch on one of the facets of leadership that you highlight in the book?
Yeah, I think, well, I would say in IT service, the level of competition is really intense, right? And so buyers have so many different options to choose from. And so it's really important, as a leader, to really make sure that there's a clarity in terms of mission and vision and purpose, in terms of what you are offering, what makes you different. I mean, being able to establish clear differentiation, it's never been more important. And what you don't want to do, and I was listening to a podcast recently where they were talking about this idea of a commodity trap, of falling into a commodity trap where what you're really doing, as you're trying to communicate to prospects, you're really simply just being kind of a service desk of providing information. What is the product? How much does it cost? How do we get started? But what you really want to do is you want to create a sense of demonstrating a unique understanding of what the true challenges and the pain points are for that prospective client, and focusing on making sure that there's kind of a clear understanding of that, and that you get it, and that you have the best path to overcoming those pain points and challenges. So, in the past, we referred to that as kind of a solutions focus versus more of just a product focus in terms of your communication. So definitely customer understanding, and this is back to having the right priority in terms of what data are you looking at? Are you reaching out? Are you doing surveys? Are you engaging? Are you leveraging third-party research that is reflective of the markets that you're trying to penetrate? Leveraging that so that you can first and foremost be able to demonstrate a unique understanding of what those pain points are. And the other thing that I would emphasize that's so important is, as much as we put into our presentation decks and our messaging, what is it that we're going to communicate out to prospective clients or existing clients? Listening, more listening versus more talking. And are you asking good questions and then sitting back and really focusing on listening and understanding, and making sure that there's a healthy balance between the two? Those would be some of the things that would be particularly important for IT service providers.
Yeah, I can especially imagine, in terms of retaining, we already talked about retaining employees, but in terms of retaining customers too, being a good listener will allow you to have more of a strategic perspective, and a strategic understanding of your clients. And with that, you're going to be able to retain longer term clients, and have a better idea of exactly how the IT services fit in with their strategy. So I can see that being very valuable for IT service providers.
Absolutely. And, from my own experience too, when I'm being pitched and there's potential partnership in play, I feel like I learn a whole lot more about that organization, that opportunity by the nature of the questions they're asking,
Mm.
probably even more so than the information that they're providing uh, me outside of that in terms of what they're telling me about themselves. I learn more by how intelligent they are in terms of the kinds of questions they're asking about me and what's important to me and what challenges I'm facing.
Yeah, one question that we get on the marketing end quite often is the importance of finding a niche market to serve. And if you're an MSP and maybe you're trying to serve all different types of industries, which is nothing wrong with that. But the advantage of, let's say, going after, I don't know, let's say professional service firms like lawyers and accountants, etc. If you'll have a better idea of what questions to ask if you have experience in those specific niches. So I think that's really good advice there.
The other thing that I would say is make sure that you're really leveraging additional voices beyond your own in terms of really being able to demonstrate that unique value and that customer understanding. And uh, one of the most powerful things to utilize is the voices of successful customers you already have. And so success stories and testimonials, can't emphasize enough the importance of incorporating that in and broadening the awareness of those very tangible examples, and let the voice of your customer, which is authentic and passionate in terms of just the transformative impact, of the services that you provide. That is a powerful story beyond any sort of marketing and sales collateral that you develop talking about yourself. So make sure to incorporate that into your communication mix.
100%. And we do a lot of websites, and we always preach the importance of social proof on websites. And a lot of IT service providers can be a little bit hesitant to disclose who their customers are in a testimonial or something like that. But the benefits are well worth it, and you can always anonymize them to a degree if you would like to, mitigate the risks associated with disclosing who your customers are. But that social proof element is huge.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, thanks so much, Dan. I really appreciate it. You had some great insights to share with our audience today. We're going to put your contact information and a link to the book and a link to your podcast in the YouTube description. So if you're listening and you want more information, please go buy the book and please check out Dan's podcast. And Dan, is there anything else you'd like to leave us with today?
Well, Devin, it's been great being able to share more about insights from the book and a little bit more about myself and helping IT service providers be successful. Just remember, you have it within your power to be an exceptional leader and to take your teams and your organization to new levels and really make the ultimate impact. Be an impact maker. Check it out, and you'll be excited to do it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.